Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AIM Impact on Your Health. AIM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AIM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AIM Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in today. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday. I know I did, and we better be ready to we'll pull that seatbelt just a little tighter. It's going to get a little bumpy around here, especially as we move into the month of June, because we have guest after guest after guest. All the top docs are going to be here with you. Today, I'm going to spend some time talking about the 10 signs of adult ADHD. We're going to get into a little family feud when it comes to the issue of calcium. And, of course, those of you who want to jump on the Ozone Express, plenty of opportunity to do so. I'll explain a little bit about that today. Ozone, big item around here. Absolutely just doing a wonderful job in reversing chronic conditions where nothing else has worked. Let's get into our schedule because it is going to get really interesting around here. Friday, we'll do a regular get 'em up, out of town version of the show. It'll be you and me. But when we turn the page and come back in June, here's the way it's shaping up. Now, pretty much our guests are going to be Monday and Wednesday guests. We're going to allow Friday to sort of mull over what happened on Monday and Wednesday and then allow you to get on out of town with a little bit of a pressure release valve automatically set. But here's how we start out in June. June 2nd, Susie Weiss is going to be with us here on the first Monday in June. Why? Because Susie Weiss is in the office with her special group of people who want to learn more about essential oils. Now, we keep bringing Susie with you because you keep showing you have the interest in what she does. So you want to pay attention on the 2nd. And if you think you already would like to be a member of the group, small group, usually I see 10, 12, 14 or so out there in my office. You're welcome to be here at 2 o'clock on Thursday, June 5th, so that you can learn about essential oils through Susie. So, live with us on Monday on the show, in the flesh on Thursday at 2 o'clock for the small group. Of course, sandwiched in there on the 4th will be Dr. Vavoom herself, Dr. Susan Smith-Jones, talking to you about sleep and how to get plenty of it. Then as we move into the next week, the real guests of the top docs, remember that group of docs I met out in Phoenix, Arizona, just a few weeks ago, launching of a book. I'm looking at, well, I thought it was the only copy. No, there are 2 copies in Western Pennsylvania. I have one, and you know who you are with the other one. Anyway, the top 20 alternative docs congregated out in Phoenix, Arizona to present each of their chapters. I'm lucky enough to bring every one of them to you, and we started off in June. So it's going to go like this. Dr. Carl Robbins, write these down now. Dr. Carl Robinson is going to be with you. He's top doc. He is based in Phoenix, Arizona. Going to be talking about aluminum toxicity. Mike Margolis is going to be here on the 11th. He's top doc. He's a dentist. He's going to be talking about mercury toxicity. Then the following week, on the 16th, Dr. Mark Starr is going to be here. Now, we're very much akin to one another. He's really into thyroid disorders and the need to correct them, but he's gone another step further. He's found the work of Dr. Broda Barnes in a way I never have, and I'm just looking at the book right now. I might as well use the exact title. Here's the title of the book. He blew me away with this. Heart attacks, heart failure, and diabetes. Prevention and treatment. Now, it doesn't say anything about thyroid, but you correct all these with thyroid hormone. It blew my mind. Folks, he's got to share it with you. Just spoke to him on the phone yesterday. He's looking forward to being with you. He'll be our guest on the 16th. On the 18th, Dr. Lee Cowden is going to be our guest. He's a board-certified cardiologist that happened to be presenting on cancer prevention and cancer treatment. Really looking forward to having him with you on the 18th. On the 23rd, Bruce Shelton. He is a medical doctor, MD, who is quite proud of his credentials on homeopathy. He works closely with a group called Bio. He's going to come to our show and talk about homeopathy in general and a group of remedies he's put together with this company called Bio that are called series remedies, and I'll let him explain it. Plenty of the diseases that have you very much concerned and worried have a homeopathic resolution. I'll let Dr. Bruce Shelton talk about that on the 23rd. Then on the 25th, I just inked this guy the other day. He's a rock star among the alternative doctors. He has been sitting out there. He's been plucked off a number of times by state agencies. He just won't give up. His name is Dr. David Steenbach. He is, like I say, a maverick extraordinaire. And what he's doing right now, and I was surprised to hear that all the stuff that he's done for a career, and he was very influential in hyperbaric oxygen back in the day, he gave it all up, and now he works strictly with stem cells. So he's going to be talking about the one topic. He's a one-topic guy. Dr. David Steenbach going to be our guest on the 25th. You do not want to miss it. And then as I flip to the page in July, got plenty of slots to fill. Right now, I would say the only slot open that has been taken is with Dr. Nicholas Meyer, also a dentist, going to be talking about biological dentistry. Also, if that wasn't enough, in the month of June, those of you who are involved with or want to become involved with the 3-day eye treatment program, we completed our last program here in the office last week. The next one that comes up will be on the 17th, 18th, and 19th of June. If you have any of the retinal afflictions, namely macular degeneration, sometimes called MACD, wet or dry, it doesn't matter, glaucoma or diabetic retinopathy in particular, also cataracts, you'll want to be at least considering being involved in our 3-day treatment program developed by Dr. Ed Condrat. We are the sole outside of Florida group here on the East Coast. We represent him very well, I'm sure. We're going to be bringing Dr. Ed onto our show here as soon as he gets back. I wanted to bring him this week, but he's in Puerto Rico doing eye programs, and they're talking about microcurrent stimulation to a group of Puerto Rican doctors. So I promised to get him back. He's the one that conceived the Top Doc program anyway, and I thought we could get this launched with him. We still might be able to pull it off if I can get a hold of him for Friday. I will give it a try. Okay, so that pretty much rounds out July. Those of you who are interested in our July eye program want to look way out into the future, I just see here it's scheduled for July 21st. Excuse me. Yes, July 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Now, folks, that's just what's on the schedule alone, and I'm sure it's going to get filled up with more stuff as time moves on. Now, we might as well hit this topic. It's a little, I wouldn't say unpleasant, but it's a shame I've got to do this. Anyway, you hear me. I always continue to say, and I'll say it right now. Have you thrown away your calcium supplements today? And by the way, pour that milk down the sink. Pour that glass of milk down the sink besides. I've been screaming this message at you since it's been brought to us by the author of a book called Death by Calcium, a brilliant scientist. His name is Dr. Stephen Levy. Now, I can tell you that I will claim I have been a part of how vitamin C got ruined. I was involved with it. I think that I did you a service by letting you know that that there was such a thing called GMO, corn-derived vitamin C. In fact, 99% of all vitamin C is and still continues to be, if that isn't the giant little kick in the butt, to think that health food companies, supplement companies who are all about health are getting genetically modified products and selling them to you. That's a scam unto itself. Anyway, if you're a label reader, you should know that you can find non-corn-derived sources. Usually the sources would be things like beet and tapioca and citrus in many cases, but they can't be corn. because being genetically modified, those are Franken molecules. You do not want to be consuming them. And then the other part wasn't really ruining vitamin C, but it was just saying, you know what, if you're going to go ahead and get the stuff, you better get a form that you can actually assimilate and absorb into the bloodstream. And so that's when the liposomal forms of vitamin C were first brought to your attention. And I think I can claim that I'm the doctor brought them to you. Now, when it came to the fish oil, I think there's still many out there who are deeply entrenched in their belief that fish oil is somehow a wonderful substance. They'll end up having that substance worn all over them before it's all said and done if you continue to prescribe these poisons. Fish oil is a poison. It is harmful to your health. I said it then. I'll say it now. Taking fish oil is hazardous to your health, and you need to stop it. There are much better ways to get those oils, omega-6s and omega-3s, in an organic form, not animal-derived in any way, and no rancidity issues to boot. So I got to claim full responsibility when it comes to ruining fish oil, only partial responsibility when it comes to ruining vitamin C, if you want to really say that it was ruined. Now, when it comes to this calcium thing, I wasn't the one who ruined it, okay? I'm just like the messenger here. Dr. Stephen Levy, a brilliant scientist, has written his book entitled Death by Calcium. But folks, he means it. It's death by calcium. And the way I open the show today, and have done so many times, and I will continue to do so in the future, is to say, have you thrown away those calcium supplements today? If not, you better. And you better pour that glass of milk down the sink besides. Now, other members of the family here must have taken exception to how this message is coming across. It's really not my problem if you're having trouble with the message, but the message is scientifically backed up. I'm looking at the book written by Dr. Levy. There's 20 chapters in this book. And before it came on the air today, I looked, and there are approximately, at a minimum, 40, in some cases, 150 references for each one of the chapters. This is what we call scientific investigation. This is what leads the fellow to write the book. This is no longer somebody's idea. This is fact. This is scientific fact. And the only point that I'll allow someone to maybe misconstrue what I've said is that I've never said that you shouldn't eat the vegetables for which calcium can be obtained. I want you to consume all the vegetables that you can get and can consume, because that needs to be the sole and only way that you get any calcium supplementation. Throw away the capsules. Do not drink the milk. Give up the dairy, but consume all the vegetables that you want. And as long as that message is received as it is now sent, hopefully some people will have some little better ability to tolerate something that maybe intuitively didn't sound right to them, but you can't go up against all this research and all these citations and all this investigation to think that maybe you don't happen to believe it. Well, it doesn't matter what you believe. It is what's scientifically fact, and I pass it on to you with emphasis and with care, because I want you to make certain you're healthy. And don't you remember what the idea was behind the opening statements of the book written by Thomas Levy, that those who do take supplements and are consuming large amounts of calcium are the first to die. He called the book Death by Calcium. I'm going to say again, he means it. Those that take calcium supplementations are the first to have the heart attacks and the strokes, and according to him, suffer every one of any other diseases that you know in a greater number and greater incidence than anybody who does not take calcium. It's pretty clear, and so I do feel for my listeners out there who may be suffering from osteoporosis, terrible disease, and I know your very considerate doctor feels that you should be taking calcium. I've got to plead guilty that I was one of those doctors. It intuitively made sense to me too, and I'm just saying I'm now repenting. I am throwing up my hands. I'm pleading for your forgiveness because what was intuitively believed to be correct is absolutely, positively incorrect. And that to atone, I guess I got to be as abrupt with the recognition that calcium supplementation is so doggone bad, because for so many years I believe I was as much as a pusher of calcium supplementations as any other doctor that you may know. But it's got to end. It's got to stop. So that that DEXA scan that you got, ma'am, that a couple years ago said you had osteoporosis, and then your doctor went ahead and said, you know what, I want you to take generous amounts of calcium, and you did that. You took the calcium, and lo and behold, you went back and you got another DEXA scan. And this DEXA scan was pretty. I mean, it was pearly white when compared to the last DEXA scan. And your doctor said, this is wonderful. This is exactly what we had hoped for you. Look at all that calcium there. And so you keep on that calcium. Your bones are getting nice and strong, and unfortunately, he needs to check out what he's saying is so wonderful for you, because I think it's the way it was described. I do like the explanation because it says it very clear. Dr. Levy says, whenever you get that second DEXA scan, it's like you put a coat of fresh paint on a rotten fence. When you lean up against that sucker, it is going to cave in. It's going to collapse. It's just that thin layer of paint that makes you believe that it's such a well-constructed piece of fence, just like it is your perception that the bone is nice and strong. In both cases, they both collapse. You need to correct your calcium deficiency, not by taking calcium, even though intuitively it sounds like you should. You can't, or you're going to suffer some pretty severe consequences because of it. So, remember the vitamins that you do take. We'll spend some time on another day talking about what they are, but in a nutshell, they are things like magnesium to bowel tolerance, vitamin K2, 6 milligrams a day, vitamin D, 5 to 10,000 units a day, and vitamin C, 3 grams a day. That's what will get the bone to turn over and to have a good amount of calcium in it, not any of the others. Stop the calcium supplementation. And we'll let it go at that. Okay, let me climb down off of the soapbox. Oh, but one final thing about this calcium, because it just remembered, you have big old calcium pumps on every cell in your body. And the reason that you do is there's a factor 10,000 times more calcium on the outside of a cell than there is on the inside of a cell. That's every cell you own. 10,000 times greater amount of calcium on the outside. And to make certain that you maintain that ratio of 10,000 to 1, there are pumps, giant pumps inside the cell that keep on pumping out any residual calcium in the cell to maintain that 10,000 to 1 ratio. Now, I know this might sound unpleasant, but this is a fact, that when we take our last breath, and when we do that, and we expire, and finally the pumps shut down, because at that point there'll be death of all cells. And the energy to be able to pump the calcium out will come to a conclusion. It'll be at that point that all the calcium on the outside of the cell will rush to the inside of the cell, and it will be the fact, and the only factor, that actually kills each and every cell of the human body. The final act is calcium's entrance into the cell. It's a pretty powerful statement. Hey, we got a knock on the door. Come on the store. Hello and welcome aboard. What's on your mind? Go right ahead.
Good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hi.
Hi. I just had a question about the calcium thing.
Sure.
What type of doctor was Dr. Levy?
Oh, hey, he's a board certified, he is a board certified cardiologist.
Okay. Because I don't know if he mentioned this or if you did, but you know the test that they have called a cardiac CT? It's a calcium scan.
Yep. Yes, I do.
That measures, the blockage in the arteries from calcium buildup and cholesterol.
That's correct.
So wouldn't that be proof positive that calcium deposition that doesn't get absorbed in the bone gets uptaked by the blood in the arteries, and that's what leads to death?
Well, by the way, that is extracellular calcium, and the kind of death I've just talked about a second ago was the gush of calcium to the inside of a cell. But what happens is that when plaque first forms within the lining of an artery, that plaque is referred to as soft plaque. It is very pliable. It's bendable and malleable and all the like. However, over time, calcium, extracellular calcium, not intracellular, gets deposited within that plaque, becomes organized, and that plaque, which was once nice and soft and pliable, turns into a rock. It turns into something that's not malleable at all. It's like a lead pipe.
Like cement.
Well, you're very good. Like cement. Now, that's extracellular, so it's not killing any one cell, as the description of a moment ago when I talked about when all those pumps shut down and calcium gushes on the inside, because that kills the cells themselves. But this is an accumulation of calcium extracellular that causes the organization of plaque into this hard plaque, which only IV chelation therapy will help to break down. Now you know the rest of the story.
But that just shows you, if that test actually measures it.
Yeah, it's called ultra-fast CT.
Heart attack and stroke, the calcium buildup in the artery.
Well, certainly it prevents, it occludes a blood vessel and prevents the free passage of blood to flow through it to the extent that that is not good, and it diminishes flow that can lead to events. That's absolutely correct. But it's a completely different...
It would be nice, Dr. Courtney, to get maybe Dr. Caminos' opinion.
Oh, I'd love to get his opinion. In fact, I saw him last week, and he asked if he could come on the show. And we should bring him on the show. I'm going to do just that. That's a very good idea.
But one more question about Thomas Levy. When he was there at the meeting, he had made a list, like you went over, of the supplements to take.
Oh, yes.
And one of them was the fish oil, and I believe he said 1,000 milligrams of the EPA and DHA per day. So he seems...
Well, I wrote this down, by the way. I'm looking at the list, and he didn't say fish oil. He said essential fatty acids.
Okay.
And if he would have said fish oil, I probably would have raised my hand. But because he said essential fatty acids, I felt that he was right on my page.
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking at the list right now, and you and I were both in attendance that night. And maybe when somebody says essential fatty acids, I remember the day when I thought they were talking about fish oils too, but they're not.
Okay.
Okay?
So that could be the plant-based.
These are the plant-based. Yes, they are.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Wonderful questions. Thank you very much. Little calcium stir out there, folks. Right? Okay, I'm climbed down off the horse. So it's all over. Recomposed. Let's do this. Take a short break. When we come back, some things on my plate. By the way, we'll open it up to put it on your plate. If you want to call in to ask a question or make a comment, the number to do that is 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. When we come back, the 10 signs of adult ADHD. You think that is even possible? I think so. Be right back. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today on a Wednesday morning. It's post-holiday Monday, Wednesday morning, and having a good time with you today, talking a bit about calcium, some other things. We'll open it up to you if you have a mind to come on in here by just dialing us up at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. We do have a knock on the door, so why don't we let him in the store? Come on, welcome aboard. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Dr. Courtney.
Hi.
Dr. Levy mentioned about a calcium channel blocker, and I thought you said you were going to check into that, the use of it. What would be the criteria that you would actually prescribe a calcium channel blocker?
Yeah, there are, well, calcium channel blockers are one of the categories of antihypertensives that are out there. And those, remember that pump I was talking to you about a moment ago?
Right.
The pumps that are involved with each cell, that actually takes energy created by the cell itself to pump calcium out of a cell to keep that ratio of 10,000 to 1. 10,000 amount of calcium outside of a cell to 1 inside. Tremendous, 10,000 to 1 is a pretty doggone disturbed ratio. And so there are drugs which actually cancel out the cell's ability to do that. They're called calcium channel blockers, and they can be used to create some physiological advantages. One of them is to lower blood pressure. So to the extent that this has been around, these have been around since the 1980s. There's really 3 categories of them. Calcium channel blockers have had a role for quite some time in individual settings where there's a benefit to shutting down the pumps, at least partially, so as to get a blood pressure advantage. Are you there?
Yeah, but Dr. Levy mentioned something basically about utilizing the calcium channel blocker, I guess, to, well, I'm not sure how to word it, to help you maintain health.
To keep the calcium out.
To keep the calcium out of the cells, yeah.
To keep the calcium out of the cell. That's exactly right. So it does block that channel and keeps the calcium out of the cell. So to the extent that there's a therapeutic benefit, I think you got the message loud and clear.
So, I mean, what test would he be, or you be utilizing to check for, to utilize a calcium channel blocker for your patient?
It wouldn't be that there's a test. I can tell you that the Norvasc, for instance, okay? Norvasc is the name of a drug. It's a calcium channel blocker. And so there's a therapeutic range for Norvascs when you put people on it, but when you see their blood pressures go down because they're on it, that's the only test that is really used, the fact that there's a response to you using the calcium channel blocker, and to that extent, no other testing is needed. Nobody's checking calcium levels. I think maybe that's what you're alluding to, but no one is checking calcium levels.
Okay, maybe I was misunderstanding the reason why Dr. Levy was going or wanting to use a calcium channel blocker. I guess he was referring to using it for blood pressure purposes.
That is the indication, the sole indication, by the way, for calcium channel blocker. Yep.
Okay, I guess he was figuring if you have elevated blood pressure, then this is one of the signs of death by calcium, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly within the cardiovascular milieu, and he talked about the fact that people who take calcium supplements are going to suffer heart attacks and strokes first before anybody else.
Yeah.
It was pretty clear. Okay, absolutely great question. And you see how it goes. If you have a question yourself, just dial us up at 412-825-6262. Now, talking about this ADHD topic, it sort of crossed my path. You know, ADHD stands for it's a childhood disorder, considered a strictly childhood disorder, something that went away as you reached adulthood. You know, today we know it's different. We know that many adults continue to struggle with symptoms of ADHD, and we're now the generation. We're seeing those large groups of kids who were just beginning to be dubbed as a sufferer of ADD or ADHD, now emerging into adulthood and beyond. And I'm talking about that group of people, and I'm talking about the group of people that preceded them, that because it wasn't HEP, because there was not really a diagnosis to make, no one even knew the letters ADD or ADHD, a whole group of people now in their middle to upper years actually suffered from ADD and ADHD and never had it diagnosed, and they moved on to adulthood. So for those of you out there that maybe considered, you know what, maybe I always thought maybe I had a touch of this. Let me see if I can describe for you what the symptoms of adult ADHD are. Number one, lack of focus. The typical inattention symptom of ADHD often continues in adulthood. You may find you are always starting a project, but you're never finishing. Know somebody like that, do you? You may also find it difficult to follow along in conversation, or find you are easily distracted, or you may miss important details or details in general. Lack of focus, first of the symptoms. I'll move on. We have a knock on the door. Come on, the store. Hello, welcome aboard. What's on your mind? Go right ahead.
Good morning, doctor. This is Deborah Ray's Fruit of the Spirit product, and we all know how good she is.
Oh, yeah.
But she has, in her product, she has calcium in there, one of the 10 minerals.
So we're just going to stick with our rule. You know, many, I was a pusher of calcium. I would not push it anymore. And so any products that contain additional amounts of calcium need to go by the board. And so you can't just say, well, it's Deborah Ray's product. Deborah and the people who put that together did so because they felt this was a really necessary mineral to include. And what we're learning now is that's not the case. So thanks for bringing it to our attention. And the response to, geez, what do we do about this product is pretty easy to me. We don't use it. We can't. Okay?
Okay, thank you, doctor.
You're welcome. Okay, the little thing that's stuck right in. Next symptom of adult ADHD, restlessness. Hyperactivity in children shows up as overly energetic and has often been described as driven by a non-stop motor. In adults, hyperactivity appears to be restlessness or feeling fidgety. You may remember being a high-energy child, too. And this is an adult form, a way that adults manifest ADHD. Number 3, frequent job changes. Hey, you know anybody like this? Job changes occur for 2 different reasons. You may have a history of being fired, your lack of attention to detail, making mistakes, or personality conflicts can lead to being fired. Or you are bored with your job and constantly searching for a more interesting job. While many adults with ADHD do end up with successful careers, it can take time to find the right job to fit your skills and personality. Got a frequent job changers out there? We move on. Number 4, difficult relationships. Statistics show that the divorce rate for adults with ADHD is much higher than for those without ADHD. Adults indicate that forgetting important dates and details, not listening, impulsive spending, and being unreliable, and some of the other symptoms of ADHD that cause the problems in relationships. That's number 4. Number 5, hyperfocus. Now look, this is the opposite of the focus that we talked about a moment ago. It's the opposite of lack of focus. Hyperfocus is when you become completely engrossed in an activity you like that you forget everything around you. You ignore those around you, you lose track of time, and you forget about responsibilities. Well, hyperfocus can be an asset and may help you sometimes. At other times, it interferes with relationships too. That's number 5. Number 6, disorganization. Just as disorganization is a problem for children with ADHD, it is also a problem for adults with ADHD. Procrastination, lack of time management skills, always being late, difficulty with prioritizing tasks, and clutter are all signs of disorganization. That's number 6. Number 7, addiction problems. Adults with ADHD are more likely to use alcohol or drugs than the general public. Smoking is also more common in adults with ADHD. About 1/4 of the general public smokes, but for adults with ADHD, that number jumps up to 40%. Didn't know that. Okay, number 8, money problems. A number of the symptoms that cause problems in other areas of your life. Disorganization, procrastination, impulsiveness can wreak havoc on your finances. You may find yourself paying late payments because you lost a bill or simply forgot to pay it. You may make impulsive purchases and then not have enough money to pay for your bills. And number 9, oops, here we go. Anger issues. Adults with ADHD may have trouble controlling their emotions, leading to angry outbursts where you explode over trivial issues. You may find that you are angry one moment, and then as quickly as your anger appeared, it dissipates. Your family may still be dealing with your outbursts, but you have moved on to the next problem, leaving your partner and children confused about what happened. And the last, forgetfulness. If you just forget unimportant details, if you don't just forget the unimportant details, you forget the important dates to meet your spouse or friend for lunch, where you put your keys, you name it, you forget it. Forgetfulness is a routine part of everyday life, but in this particular case, can be overplayed. Those are the list of adult symptoms of ADHD. Thought I'd pass them on to you. Do you know anybody like that? Know anybody with more than 1 or 2 of those? You may be looking at an adult sign of ADHD, especially in that group of adults that never had the opportunity to benefit from the diagnosis. They were the problem students that never seemed to get it right because they didn't have a diagnosis for them back then. Now we do, and they are adults, and they need help. And maybe you can help get them steered to that help. Let's do this. We'll take another short break. When we get back, we still open it up to you. The number to do it is 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. Let's talk about the Ozone Express when we return. Be right back. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. Here in a Wednesday morning version of our show, we've opened it up to you if you got a mind to come on in here by dialing us up at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. There'll be a knock on the door, and then I will let you in the store. Speaking of that, we do have a knock. Why don't you come on in? Hello, and welcome aboard. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Dr. Courtney. You're always opening a new can of worms.
What can of worms was it today? The calcium can?
Well, you actually opened up more than one. We begin with the calcium, but then when you did the adult ADHD,
oh yeah.
Unfortunately, I've been battling most of those things most of my life, at varying degrees, of course. And I think a lot of adults, at one time or another, have issues with those. What was it? 10 things that you mentioned?
Yeah, those were the 10 signs of symptoms of adult ADHD.
Now, how many do you have to have before you get the diagnosis?
I'm not reading anything. They don't say if you get 3 of these, that's it. I'm just saying that you know, these adults, and look, knowing you as I do, that diagnosis passed you by. There was no ADHD for you, okay? So you grew up as a child with whatever character traits there were. You were the problem kid, right? Isn't that what they looked at you as? You were the fidgety kid in the school. Nobody could ever, like, reason with you. You were always doing your own thing. You couldn't be paying attention to anybody else. Am I describing you? Sound like somebody you know.
Yeah, but at least they didn't drug me anyhow.
Oh, because they didn't know they could drug you. They didn't know they could drug you. Now we have school teachers with no medical degree making the diagnosis and telling the child, look, go home, tell your mom to take you to the doctor. When you get to the doctor, tell the doctor to prescribe Ritalin. She should have just written a prescription.
I know, this is a scary world we live in.
A little crazy.
I do want to say before I forget, because, you know, forgetfulness can be one of the problems. On this calcium issue, by the way, I listened to some of the other speakers on this channel, and apparently you've got the waves going. I
always do. I get the juices going, and then they make statements, and then they can't back them up. I'm backing up what I'm saying. I looked at Levy's book, by the way. He's got citation after citation.
And I have to admit, I do have a science background, and I'll tell you what, I have my problems with these things, because, like you say, one time you gave a dissertation on that studies can be very misleading, and I do agree with you. Mm-hmm. And I read scientific journals, and then you've got the so-called orthodox, the strict scientists, and then you've got these people on the edge, and then you've got these people that have the vision 50 years up front. Now, I like to side with the people who have a vision at least 50 years out front. And, of course, I get myself into a lot of trouble doing that. And I believe you do the same thing, because you want to be on the cutting edge. You want to, where the best new information is coming.
That's where it is. And, you know, when you I'm looking at the book right now. I see it sitting here on my desk. I just tell you that every chapter, 20 of them, I got one chapter with 157 references in it, okay?
Well, I hope you check each and every one.
Well, I can tell you that at this point, I can only say that Levy has let me know that all the research all points in this one direction. Now, there can't be 100% of anything, but nonetheless, it should be something that we had already seen and already interpreted as bad, but we didn't do it. I think we commend Levy for digging in the literature and actually deciphering what the real message was, as opposed to telling the woman, you poor lady with osteoporosis, take calcium, and we're literally killing everybody, put her on the calcium, because intuitively it sounded like you should do it, but in actuality, it's not what to do.
I do agree with that. And the fact of it is, we go off on these tangents, and at the time they sound like they're, like you said, it's intuitive.
Well, just think about the fish oil tangent that we were all into for the longest time, too, okay? So, I mean, that's all poison. I mean, that stuff there, that was the Scandinavian snow job of the century, okay? Sold us that little bill of goods there back in the 1970s on how we poor Americans with our animal fat diet really needed a good healthy dose of a great set of omega-3s. What could be better than our one national resource called fish? And we swallowed that fish hook, line, and sinker for years.
Well, you know what? I listen very carefully to what you say. I listen fairly carefully to what others say. And I sort of I have backed off on the fish oil, okay? Now, I have increased my intake of actual fish a little bit.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Yeah, and then I'm paying attention to these vegetarian sources of oils, and I do think that this makes some sense to me.
Yeah.
And I do find out that there are people, producers making fish oils that are quite a bit differentiated from the common fish oil, and that's interesting to me. And I'm still trying to ferret that out, but because none of these things are really pure in and of themselves, we're talking about very complex mixtures of substances,
that's right.
And we're only focusing on two compounds, EPA and DHA.
Well, how about this one for the giveaway? To me, the dead giveaway wasn't when the family practice doctor down the road all of a sudden started recommending fish oil to his patients. I should have figured there was something wrong then, okay? But I didn't.
I know.
I didn't catch it.
It's when your mailman gives you a stock tip. Maybe it's time to get out of the market.
That's right. That's right. But the biggest tip with the fish oil is when the pharmaceutical company came out with their own brand of fish oil, that's when I knew there was a problem, okay?
Okay. This, I did call to ask you this question about this other gentleman that called about the calcium channel blocker.
Yeah.
Okay, and magnesium certainly fits into that category. And the last show you had, I asked the question about, did you come across that reference that Levy had about a 22-gram push of magnesium?
Never came across it. Got the book in front of me. Haven't seen it in print yet. And I went looking. I went. You made me look. I didn't find the reference to 22.
No, I have a sneaking suspicion he might not have put this in the book.
Well, it isn't in the book. I looked after you told me that. I looked high and low, and I couldn't find it.
Now, is it your take when someone of a scientific background refers to something as all-cause mortality is reduced? What is your take on that?
Take it for how it was said and say that with all potential causes of death, they are lessened in those groups. If we're talking about the calcium discussion,
that rather strikes me odd that they use that means it's like a common denominator to life, if you will.
Hello.
That's a very powerful statement.
Powerful statement. That's why you can't...
that statement about magnesium.
That's right. Exactly right. Anyway, thank you.
Okay.
So much. Enjoyed it. There you have it. Got another knock on the door. Come on in the store. Hello, welcome, boy. You want to weigh in? Go right ahead.
Dr. Courtney, what about I heard you say about IV chelation, the only thing that takes out hard plaque. So was Arnold talking about those oral chelations only for soft plaque then?
No, no, no. It's not only. It's only EDTA that removes hard plaque. Whether that's given IV or oral, in both cases, it helps dissolve that plaque, which is a calcium, which is removing calcium. Actually, is what it's doing. So it's not just IV. It's also oral. It's always only EDTA that does it, though. Okay.
And what about taking vitamin D? Since it enhances the absorption of calcium, should you take your vitamin D supplement with the high calcium food?
Yeah, because if you're taking, you're eating generous amounts of fruits and vegetables, and you're able to absorb greater amounts of calcium because you have the right amount of vitamin D. This is where the machine was put together to work, okay? This was how the machine was designed, I think, by whoever put this thing together. And you know who I'm talking about. So
yeah.
you get a normal level of vitamin D so that whatever vegetables and fruits you're eating, you're able to absorb the maximum amount of calcium. That's fine, because it's happening through natural means. It's this supplementation thing that's got to stop.
And the magnesium, should you take that separately?
Because everybody has a magnesium deficiency. I would say, well, I have said, and I know Dr. Levy was equally as adamant about it, you take magnesium to bowel tolerance. And that means that everybody's going to have a slightly different dose, because bowel tolerance changes from person to person. But however amount you can handle without having diarrhea, that's your dose for magnesium, and you should be taking it every day.
With or without food?
Without food.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. There you have. Great questions. Absolutely wonderful. Coming into this final portion, you see how things catch on here. Enjoyed having that discussion about calcium again. I got to refer you to the book by Dr. Thomas Levy. It is a work of science. All those references are in there. And I haven't checked every one of the references, but the fact that they're there, and he checked them, says to me he did the yeoman's research on the work. You just have to quit taking the calcium, and you got to throw away the milk, because the science will march on. All these other commentators and hosts and everything else, the day will come where they'll have to reckon with their inability to stare science in the face. You can't go on intuition. I know intuitiveness sounds like a wonderful thing to do. Look what it did with respect to fish oils. Look what it's done with respect to calcium. We've yet to determine what the next intuitive act that we commit is going to be revealed as something harmful and deadly. I'll let you know when it is. I got a pretty good string going right now of ruining things. See, vitamin C, fish oil, calcium. Wow. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed being with us today. On Friday, we're going to open them up again. We're going to talk more about the Ozone Express. A lot of people enjoying benefits from ozone, whether they have systemic problems or whether or not they have chronic pain problems. These two categories are just, they're pleased as all get out there involved with the ozone. We're pleased as all get out that we can offer them the ozone. And you, if you have issues, you have a medical condition that can't seem to be relieved by any other treatment you know of, you got to think about this. You got to try it. Go check me out. Go to my website, djcmd.com. Click on the icon marked Archives, then type in Courtney/Schallenberger/ozone. You listen to the 3 shows, I think you'll agree. Okay. So I'm waiting for bonus in the background for a change, but they're not coming. And then don't forget, hey, as we move into the month of June, that big lineup, all the top docs. I hope to get an address. So if you wanted to get this book, I mean, it's on Amazon. It's called Learn How the Top 20 Alternative Docs in America Can Improve Your Health, put out by HEMA, the Arizona Homeopathic and Integrative Medical Association. HEMA is the group. So, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney saying so long for an impact on your health.